Matthew here with RWP Reviews, and today I wanted to talk to you about flight control boards. About a year and a half ago, there was only a few options out there for flight control boards. Obviously that's changed. The first one I looked at around here was the KK2 board. Then you have the xmpf3e board. Then you had the QQ Super board, which was a gyro board that you could not plug into the computer or nothing like that, but it had S-Bus supporting, which was amazing that it actually had that. DMS2 satellite receiver plug-in, and of course your regular PWM inputs. And then there, of course, there was the Rev 5 xmpf3e. And then later on, about maybe 3 or 4 months ago, after I began into that, there was the Rev 6. The Rev 6 was the first to support S-Bus in besides the QQ Super and CC3D. And this board thought, oh great, a xmpf board, but it was only, remember this, base flight compatible. Base flight, not clean flight, base flight. And I mean, that goes back a ways to the original thing. Now we have beta flight, race flight, and all these others. What we have here is a Rev 3 flight control board, which is the F3 processor, and this is the FPV model sells these boards, and there is the F303 boards. So there's two of these here. One is their first generation. I think this is the third generation that actually has a buzzer and VBAT and a bunch of other pinouts that was done a lot better. And this is like their first one, which did not have VBAT, but did have a buzzer, but the buzzer pads pulled right off as soon as you soldered some heavy duty wire to it and got a little jerk, you know, accidentally or something like that. And then there was this I-shaped board, which is the F3 board, and that was a pretty nice little board until the USB port pulled off one time when I was trying to connect it, which was very bad. A bad design, I think, on their pinout here for the micro. And here's a F4 board. Now, this is a pretty cool board. I haven't tried this current version yet. I actually have one similar to it with no VBAT. So, there is a new board here, and it is none of these. All these boards are great, but this is even far better. So, this flight control board is made by Frsky, which is the manufacturer who makes Frsky receivers. And I really wanted one of these boards. This is not the telemetry version, unfortunately. This is a standard version, which is just a standard receiver built into a F3 flight control board. It has a bind, or this is not a bind. Yeah, this is the bind button. I'm sorry. This is the bind button. There's a little tiny boot button here, and it also has your PWMs you plug in with a micro little connector here. And also, it does have that you can solder up the pads on the bottom instead of using this connector if you wanted to. And guess what? It has an SD card slot for blackboxing. I know that some people are really going to be excited about this. Only one big downfall of this board: no telemetry. Why would you make a board with a receiver that's Frsky, and that's one of the reasons why we run Taranis Frsky radios, is because we want telemetry. So why would you make a board that does not have telemetry in it? You know, that runs a receiver. I don't know why. But at the same time, this may be a really good board to put in a small quad like this, because this is a 130 size quad, and I have an F1 board stacked on here. It's xmpf3e original, and it's stacked a D4R2 on top of it with PPM soldered directly on there, and it's just stacked in there. So I mean, I had to make room somewhere. This board right here would just get rid of all that. A couple little negatives about this board that I've noticed. Unlike some other boards that I've mentioned, where'd the I-shaped board go? Here it is. The I-shaped board here that Banggood sells, it supports 2 to 6S battery voltage directly to it, and has a 5-volt regulator on it, and the S-Bus, or I'm sorry, the VBAT goes directly through this board. So you don't have to solder up VBAT, and your supplied voltage to the board is straight off your LiPo. Makes very clean. Don't have to have one of these little UBEX, 5-volt regulator. Don't have to have that. with this board, you can only do 4 to 10 volts only supported. So, I mean, you could have a 6 volt or a 5 volt regulator or up to 10 volts in theory, but the problem is with that is that why didn't they just go one more step and make it like this? If they would have done that, it'd be so perfect. And then they have no telemetry on this board. So that's kind of a couple downers for this board. But there's also some nice things about this board. It's because it's an F3 board and it has this receiver built into it. It'll make a super nice clean little build. I'm going to be a real negative for 1 second on this board. Another thing that I noticed I didn't like about it, which was that, you know, these connectors are so small and they're real hard to solder in. So you could bridge these gaps on it really easy compared to like a bigger board like this, where the holes are way bigger. And that's what I don't like about it. Besides that, it doesn't use standard pinouts. And also another thing, VBAT. You do have to hook up the VBAT separately. Here it is right here, next door to that plug there on the white side here. You have to hook up VBAT separately to your flight control board, and that makes it kind of a downer. Why didn't they go the other route where supply your voltage and use the VBAT all in one? If they did that, it would have been so much simpler. Now we got to hook up 4 wires instead of just 2. But Frsky will learning. Of course, they don't do too many on flight control boards. They mainly do radios and also do receivers. So this might be a pretty good board. I'll have to check the firmware. It says that it's supposed to be running Betaflight 3.0. You probably could update it 3.1 pretty easy, but you do have to do some configurations, of course, for the board, because you have to use, I think, UART 2, which is integrated in here. You don't have to hook up a receiver, obviously, because it's got one on it, which is the beauty of this board. Anyways, happy flying, and thanks for watching.